Hello, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Genshin Impact. My name is Azork, and today is part 3 of our quick, oversimplified rundowns of the characters in the game. Today we'll be addressing 4 stars released in versions 1 and 2. Please note the disclaimers in part 1 of the series, and remember rules number 1 and 2 of Genshin Impact. One additional note. After the first 4 characters listed here, every other character is from Inazuma. I strongly recommend you look at what it will take to get the materials for a character from Inazuma, because you will be gated behind hours and hours of questing, and might be forced to leave a character at level 20 or level 40 long after your characters could be at 50, 60, or beyond. Going in release order, we'll start with Diona. Diona is a character I am extremely familiar with, having used her all throughout the first 2 years of the game. I once jokingly said I was a Diona main because I would put her in every team I played, mostly because she is one of the few characters in the game who can both heal and shield, which makes her a tremendous defensive option. Be aware that she only brings defense, and that 12 seconds of shielding ends sooner than you might think. Xinyan came out at a time when the developers were playing with an idea players referred to as split scaling, where Xinyan's stat needs are at odds with each other. Torn between needing attack and defense, neither her offensive nor defensive capabilities are very good, nor can she really decide what she's meant to do. Between a minor boost to physical damage, a shield that needs to be stronger to be useful, and some questionable potential as an on-fielder, Xinyan has an unfortunate reputation in the community. She's perfectly usable, but there are definitely better options too. Rosaria is the rare polearm character from Mondstadt. In addition to being able to provide some amount of support cryo damage in application, her primary perk is adding a portion of her crit rate to her teammates. Her elemental skill charges through enemies and backstabs them, unless they are large, which can sometimes make her movements unpredictable. In simple terms, she is an alternative to Kaya. The final 4-star added during version 1 is Yanfei, a pyro main damage dealer. As a conventional catalyst attacker, Yanfei has smooth animations that feel fun to use, but she is very dependent on stamina use, gets glued to one spot to attack, and can generally only hit one enemy at a time. That said, if you get her early, she's a respectable option. If you can rack up a bunch of constellations on her, she gains a decent shield with her burst, which creates an alternate playstyle as a defensive support. Sayu is the first of our Inazuma characters, and she's often forgotten about. Slept on, you might say. Her healing isn't as good as fellow Animo characters Jin or Xianyun, but it can certainly get the job done, and her Super Monkey Ball skill is both fun and a great option for getting around the overworld. As a healer, you might be able to get away with not leveling her for a bit while you gain access to Inazuma, but don't wait too long. Thoma is a character who wasn't widely used upon release, but has seen more options open up to him since. His burst summons a shield that replaces itself every few seconds, meaning it takes time to build up in strength, and applies pyro very slowly. It's this slow application, combined with the protection from the shield, that actually makes him a good choice for burgeon teams. He's also sometimes just used for his shield, which is better than Xinyan's. Gorou is the glue that makes a particular team setup viable, Mono Geo. Unless you know what you're doing, playing a mono team as a beginner is generally not a great idea, though if you are going to do it with any element, Geo's probably the best choice. Gorou is meant to be played exclusively with other Geo characters, particularly those who benefit from defense. Ironically, though he improves his team's defense, he's not a defensive support, nor is he usable as an on-field carry. However, you'll want him if you're committing to either Noelle or Ito as your main damage dealer. Fellow Geo user Yunjin is a bit different. Though she scales off defense, she prefers to be played in non-Geo teams, especially with characters who want to deal their damage by pressing the attack button rather than skill or burst. Not only does she raise their damage, but at C2 she also improves attack speed, which is a very rare bonus. Her elemental skill is a counterattack, like Beto's, but not as strong. Kuki Shinobu is a strange character because at her release she was absolutely terrible. Her elemental skill drains her health and then heals a teammate slowly. Her burst is only good for iframes, As such, she was mocked until a couple patches later when Dendro was added to the game. Never has a character had such a zero to hero story, as she is the game's preeminent Hyperbloom trigger and is now considered a very strong 4-star as a result. But be aware that her only other upside is that her healing works outside of combat, so if you aren't playing her in Hyperbloom, you're not going to get a lot out of her. Then again, for newer players, that alone might be reason to level her. And our final character on the docket is Shikanoin Heizou, an Animo Catalyst who uses hand-to-hand combat to fight. This makes him rather unique, and as a result, fun, but he's only average as far as 4-star on-field damage dealers go. He can also be used as a questionable Animo driver if Sucrose and Kazuha aren't available. Most players, and also seemingly the devs, have mostly forgotten that he exists, but I could see how he might be a fun main damage dealer for a new player, provided you can get his Ascension materials. And that will do it for today. We'll double back for the Standard Banner and early 5-stars next, since they are, in my opinion, the strongest options for you to target when you're extremely new to the game. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.